What's up, Street Beast fam, YouTube fans, and everybody else who stumbled across this channel? Shinigami here, aka Sensei Danny, and we're back with another episode of Black Belt Thoughts. Today we're going to be talking about martial arts training in movies and TV, and I got a comment on my Black Belt Reviews video, my last one, where I reviewed the first two seasons of Cobra Kai. This is actually what I was saving, talking about, going in depth about the difference in training and all the weird things they did. So, couple of shout outs before I get started. Happy birthday to my friends Brandy and Amanda, and I believe I have a couple other friends on Facebook, but not ones that I know. Oh, and my One-sama, Natasha. Happy birthday to you too. So without any further ado, let's get right back into it with Black Belt Thoughts. So we'll jump right into Cobra Kai and Karate Kid right off the bat. So obviously in the movies, Cobra Kai and Karate, or the Karate Kid movies, we get some really interesting and sort of unorthodox training methods from Mr. Miyagi, and we also see the way John Kreese trains his students, which is a little more, uniform dojo style in an actual dojo where, it's kind of a class setting. And he's really hard on them. He teaches them to be violent, that violence is the best way to go through life, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. But other than that, it seems to be pretty standard stuff, pretty standard conditioning and, combination training. Whereas the way Miyagi trains Daniel-san is a bit more almost kind of hidden. He teaches them techniques via manual labor. And both methods are meant to do the same thing, which is achieve muscle memory. So obviously, we have the famous wax on, wax off. The scene on the boat where he's teaching Daniel-san balance and how to block from horse stance after, you sand the floor, paint the fence, paint the house, crane kick, drum technique, all these unusual methods of doing things, which we see kind of carry over into the Cobra Kai series, and then it expands on it more where we see Daniel-san doing more things like Shochu Gecko and Reiki Gecko, or Kan Gecko, Geiko, which is training in extreme temperatures, the balance platform thing, things like that are not really things you would think of when you're dealing with martial arts training. I dropped my phone there. Sorry about that. In general, I mean, most movies that are like karate movies or kickboxing movies, things of that style, usually don't go into unorthodox things like that, or even really philosophical things too much. A lot of them just show standard, conditioning or having to train under a tough coach, like in Best of the Best, as opposed to like the Karate Kid, where it's in a camp setting where they're at a training camp and they have a facility and they're, running track stuff and hitting pressure pads to see how much stronger they've gotten, weights, all of that stuff. Board breaking, things that are very competition specific or fight specific, whereas in the Karate Kid, and even in Cobra Kai, the Miyagi-Do style is, here is how you find ways to train doing everyday labor things that need to be done. And, you really didn't see any kind of unorthodox training from the Cobra Kai dojo in the movies, per se, other than maybe breaking that wooden dummy in Karate Kid 3. But in Cobra Kai, we get a couple of things that Johnny kind of comes up with off the top of his head that I think were intended to sort of mirror, the unusual way that Miyagi-Do trained. like going to a scrap yard and having the students smash junk cars that need to be demolished anyway, break windows, with hammers, things that are they're almost things that have come into like MMA training, like hitting a tire with a sledgehammer, stuff like that to train certain muscle groups for specific movements without a training partner. Or one of my favorite things was the concrete, the cement mixer, the truck, where they're not only learning muscle memory and getting strength conditioning from an unorthodox training method, but moreover, they're learning some philosophy from Sensei Lawrence, which, again, the only philosophy we really ever got in the movies from Sensei Kreese was, someone, very, very aggressive things. Man faces you, he's the enemy, and enemy deserves no mercy. On the street, in the gym, in competition, da 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 da. This isn't a karate. This isn't a knitting class. It's a karate dojo. Things like that. Whereas Mr. Miyagi's thing was balance and just life lessons. Never keep ladies waiting. Things like that. And even in their demeanors, I think the movies did a great job of not just portraying their philosophy in what they said and how they trained their students, but their demeanors as people. You got Mr. Miyagi's just good natured all the time, pretty much. Except for maybe a few times where he's more sad than anything, trying to deal with Sato, but that's a video for another time. And then you have Kreese, who is always just angry and stern and serious all the time. Very hard personality kind of guy. Which also, is mirrors real life. And a lot of martial arts movies do this, where you have the master of the protagonist and the protagonist who are both very, good-natured people most of the time. And then you have the antagonist who's very violent, usually shady. A lot of kung fu movies have like a triad type boss kind of guy. In the Karate Kid movies, you have, John Kreese and Terry Silver. Bloodsport, you have Chong Li. Things like that, where despite the fact that martial arts is supposed to cultivate a good personality and good traits, there's just some people that learn martial arts that are never going to change, and they're just jerks from the get-go, and they're jerks till the time they become a teacher, and they pass that on to their students. And those examples of that are everywhere. But so that's that. And there's other examples of unorthodox training in all kinds of movies. Like, Bloodsport. I've never ever in my life seen anybody use some kind of rope rig to train splits, but Jean-Claude Van Damme's over here doing splits on a this weird rig. They did other things too. I tried to get some screenshots for this video. I couldn't find some of the ones I was looking for, like the scene where he's with his Shidoshi Tanaka. John Clad's portrayal of Frank Dukes, who has been picked apart as a fraud. And even though that's the case, I still love Bloodsport. It's an entertaining movie. It's fiction. It was always fiction. It was based on fiction, but it's still a good movie. So Senzo Tanaka is teaching, Frank Dukes in this movie ninjutsu, and there's a scene where Tanaka, who's a fish farmer, is teaching Frank Dukes or Jean-Claude Van Damme, however you want to look at it, how to move quickly with his hands, and to do that, he's having him grab fish swimming through the little troughs in his fish farm, and takes him a while to do it. He's got him training blindfolded, which is something I've done. Some places actually do that. You got him doing, meditation and getting swung at with a bow staff or a shinai. It's different, but also very that movie's kind of interesting because it shows unorthodox training as well as standard sparring with his master and all that. Uh, and you can the great part is it, like most montages, it shows a growth period from where he couldn't do the splits to all of a sudden later in the movie he's up on a building doing splits, like full splits, like it's nothing. Um, I thought that was interesting. You know, there's also that montage at the beginning where it shows some of the other fighters training, like Chong Li breaking ice, or the dude from Africa or something breaking gourds on a tree. Uh, Guys doing bare knuckle brawls in like Madagascar or something. Just all kinds of unorthodox training methods. And a lot of the stuff, you know, in movies is meant to just exaggerate real life training. There's a movie I saw on the Xbox 360 a long time ago. It was a real I stumbled across it back when the movies marketplace had completely just low budget B movie, easily licensed stuff. It was called Charles Bronson Champion. It had nothing to do with or Charlie Bronson Champion. It had nothing to do with actual Charles Bronson. It was a Japanese karate movie from the 70s or the early 80s. And there's a couple of scenes that they come back to later where the antagonist is breaking bricks with headbutts, and the protagonist is breaking Japanese roof tiles, like huge stacks of them, and punching, you know, hot sand and spearhanding hot sand, which you see that in a lot of movies too. Uh, and they come back to it later where they're fighting in some kind of tournament and it gets kind of crazy, and the antagonist, you know, headbutts a wall, breaks a big hole in it, and then the protagonist punches him in the head with the same kind of punch that he broke the bricks with or the roofing tiles with. It's just interesting to see these different things in these movies that sometimes they're just for the movies, other times they're exaggerations of things in real life. Um, Other times you get things like in anime where it's really exaggerated or really weird. One of my favorite ones was in the original Dragon Ball when Goku and Krillin are kids and they're training with Master Roshi, and he's having them do all kinds of like stuff that's supposed to take years, and these kids are so strong they're doing it like but just unorthodox stuff, like he's having them deliver milk on foot, crates and crates of milk on foot, running all over the place, or swimming in a lake that's got a shark in it, running from the shark, or pushing, you know, 2-ton boulders around in the woods. So, you know, there's all kinds of interesting things they do in all these fictional movies, um, and it's very just very unique in a lot of ways. And some of it's deep, some of it's not. One of my favorite tropes is, especially like in old kung fu movies. There's a couple of movies that come to mind off the bat specifically, like the 36 Crazy Fists or The Secret of Shaolin, where the protagonist is trying to learn kung fu and he's not very good at it, and he comes across some kind of drunken hobo kind of vagrant vagabond type character who turns out to be a kung fu master and hassles him, and they get in a fight, and the protagonist, despite learning in an actual from an actual master somewhere else, gets absolutely humiliated by this guy and starts learning from him too. Uh, you know, things like getting a stick in the mouth, you know, happen in some of these things. Or, you know, one of my other favorite movies, I think it doesn't get enough respect in or outside of the martial arts community, is The Last Dragon, um, which I get it was kind of all over the place, but it's a great movie and has some great stuff. And there's something you see in a few movies that they do in this, which is catching an arrow to demonstrate a level of mastery above and beyond what most people achieve. Because snatching an arrow out of the air mid-flight before it hits you requires incredible focus, incredible speed, and it's doable, but not many people can actually do it. They even did that in the next Karate Kid with Mr. Miyagi. But um, yeah, I mean, it always shows these fictional universes usually go out of their way to show a great difference between the protagonist and the antagonist. Although that movie doesn't really show the villain's training so much shown up, which is, well, not even the main villain. But they never really show shown up training, but they do show you know Bruce Leroy, aka Leroy Green's training with his master and the training he does with his students. Um, there's a wide world of this stuff, but I lost my train of thought a little bit. So then you have movies like The Quest too, where and I'll probably talk about this again when I can show some more footage of it. But again, Jean-Claude Van Damme ends up in a situation where he's doing unorthodox training on a place called Muay Thai Island. And the first thing to do is kick the crud out of him as soon as he gets there. I was actually, when I saw that movie, I was actually expecting to see a little more similarity to the training he went through in Kickboxer, which I'm going to talk about in the next video I do. If you guys like this one, this is kind of like part one of a Black Belt series on fictional martial arts training in movies and TV. Then you have similar things. There's a lot of crossover too. In Kung Fu, where if you can snatch the grasshopper out of my hand, or you can snatch the whatever out of my hand. I think that was actually probably where Frank Dukes got his little lie that made it into Bloodsport about snatching the fish so that he could snatch the coin out of the Arabian dude's hand. These movies all have a very they all vary too. It varies by the era they came out in. The Kung Fu movies from the 70s and the 80s, they show a lot of class training, but they also show a lot of individual training. And it's all very, very stylized and exaggerated for like animal styles and stuff. And it's some of the choreography is a little stiff. And then you get into like the American movies in the 80s, like Kickboxer and American Ninja and Bloodsport and Karate Kid and Rocky. Everybody remembers Rocky, right? Even there's unorthodox training in that, and that's a boxing movie. And most people don't think of boxing as a martial art, but it is. And one of my favorite things is in Rocky 1, where he's training to fight Apollo, and he ends up at his buddy's meatpacking job punching sides of beef to toughen his knuckles up. And even in Rocky 4, when he's in Russia in the middle of nowhere and training with farm equipment and logs, that's stuff you don't see in normal boxing training like ever. It's there's just all this creativity in all these movies and TV shows that draw upon real training and then take it to another level that may or may not be realistically possible. And I think that's great. It's great for universe building. It's great for demonstrating the characters' paths in progression in their training and their abilities. And again, going back to the first thing I talked about in this video, Cobra Kai and Karate Kid, it also shows the difference in philosophies, the way their students come up and the way they behave, not just in competition, but in real life. Some of the stuff actually in some of these movies does affect that in TV shows, and other ones it doesn't so much. You see that in Dragon Ball 2, where there's the difference between the Turtle Hermit, Master Roshi training, and the way he tries to teach Goku and Krillin to behave versus the Crane Hermit's training and the way he teaches Tien and Why can't I think of his name? Yeah, I know. 10 points off my nerd card for that. Um, Tien and I know it's something weird. I actually have a sticker on my fridge of the character too. I don't know why I can't think of this character's name. I talk about it all the time with with my daughter and stuff. Uh, but anyway, you know, it's and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate in the comments for that, but yeah, that's what it is. Um, you know, so again, depending on the movie, um, you get to see all kinds of different training methods in fiction that are just all over the spectrum. You have intense body conditioning where they're getting hit with sticks and stuff all the time, which again, some styles actually do that. And then you have other training that is just not really that realistic or really possible at all, like the swimming from a shark or moving boulders or smashing coconuts, or sometimes gourds. Some gourds you can do that with, others you can't. It's just a lot of remember, it's a movie. Or my favorite thing from Bloodsport, outside of the actual fighting, the dim mock demonstration on the bricks, where he hits the brick on top and the brick on the bottom breaks. That's not that realistic. I mean, you can kind of set that up. I'm sure Frank Dukes in his demonstrations in real life where he did that had a rigged brick on the bottom of the stack. But even that the idea that demonstrates ideas and principles of martial arts that do exist. In karate, the idea of the way we punch isn't to hit the surface; it's to generate force through our target, and the momentum's supposed to continue beyond the point of impact. And believe me, when you get to a certain point, or get hit by someone who's gotten to a certain point of practice with punches in karate, you will feel it. I'm not talking about nonsense like chi, no touch, not touch knockouts. It's physics. Force that is generated will go through an object. That's just science. And uh, you also get to the point where you can feel when you've got it right, and a lot of it has to do with not just the putting your weight into the punch, but when and how you close your fist and time it with the impact. I've had it where my Shihan would knock me over and I'd feel the force going through me, and then as I got better at keeping my balance and not getting knocked over, when I get my belt pinned on me in promotions, I could feel the impact go through me, and it's a weird feeling, but it's something that actually happens. And you see that in a lot of martial arts movies too, where they demonstrate that. Um, one of my favorites is like the Street Fighter, where he breaks the dude's skull by punching it on the top of the head, and the force goes through and just splits his whole skull down the middle. And they do like this crazy X-ray shot, and then like blood starts gurgling out of his head. Again, it's an exaggeration, but it's based on real stuff. Same thing in Karate Kid. They show the katas and stuff too in that movie. Some movies show katas. Karate Kid, Bloodsport. A lot of kung fu movies show them doing animal forms, but some things you don't. You don't really see a lot of kata and things like Dragon Ball Z or like Kenichi or Baki, where they focus more on practical things. You see like shadow boxing type of stuff, which is also kind of like a kata, but they don't really do kata in a lot of stuff. They really didn't show any kata in like The Quest or The Last Dragon or some of the other movies I've talked about in this, and some of the movies I'll talk about in the future where they do show kata like things from like Muay Thai, where they do that in like Ong Bak or the Protector, which again I'll talk about those in a future video. Anyway, I think that about wraps this one up. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Don't forget that I'm doing a Q&A video if I get enough questions on my Twitter at the Reaper MMA. I've got a pinned post on there. Go ask your questions. When I hit 1,000 subscribers, which as of this afternoon, I have 805 subscribers right now on this channel. So I'm only like 295 away, possibly less by now. Big shout out to Sports Center and Snoop Dogg for sharing the clip of my Street Beefs fight on Instagram. Shout out to Street Beefs, of course, because I wouldn't be where I'm at right now with my progress on YouTube or just my recognition around the internet without them. You know, thank you, Christopher Wilmore, and aka Scarface, Martin Rubio, aka Tiny Tank, Alex Chenard, aka Bushido Zed. You know, check out Bushido Zed's channel. Again, usual shout outs, Cougar Jackson. Check out his channel, Reaction Fight Club. Also, don't forget to check out my merchandise collaboration with Heart in the Fight and subscribe to their channel. Links in the description below, as well as my Teespring store, also link in the description below. The links for my Twitter, my Instagram are both, in the description below too. And thank you for watching. Shinigami out.